Hello everybody and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are in the second episode of the new retro futurism 60s inspired AtomPunk area, which yeah, is a weird name because I have no idea how I'm gonna call this, but anyways, you will see from the title. As always, a little reminder: if you're new here, guys, and you like this kind of game and creative stuff and talking about creative topics and whatsoever, make sure to hit that subscribe button to be a part of the Camel family here. And as always, if you like the video, give it a like, as you can see now from this little camel teaser showing you to like the video, because it helps me out. And yeah, if you like things, just show it, whatever. Anyhow, let's continue talking about what I'm doing. So last episode was really about getting the basic scene done for this whole area. For those of you who haven't seen the last episode and wondering what am I doing here, or what I am doing here, I don't know what you are doing here, but if you wonder what I am doing here, you can really go back to the last episode, which you will see on the top right hand now. There will be a little thing popping up showing you the way to the first episode, because it's quite interesting, I think, and also important to know what this is all about, because I'm not going to explain that again, since that was a long explanation actually, and also because I don't think I can explain that even better than last episode, because I've said basically everything about this. So now in today's episode we are going to build basically the second part of this big building over here, which will cover up the Tower of Terror ride. I don't know, how is this called in-game? I totally forgot how this one is called in-game. Anyhow, that's kind of this elevator ride where you have like multiple drops, and it's very interesting because you can create different themes, what we will do obviously inside the building, and yeah, it just looks nice and interesting. And the building here is now again very much inspired by the idea of future organic buildings from the 60s, 70s. So what I also found very interesting about this is, like, if, you know, when we have some kind of visions of the future right now, so from kind of 2018 standpoint, they most likely are very clean, very white, very kind of shiny, a lot of technology going on, a lot of screens, a lot of, I don't know, holograms and stuff. What comes a bit short, or felt a bit short, is like nature. How do we, you know, approach nature, and what about nature in general? So like, if you look at futuristic visions from 2018, like there's barely even any nature to be seen, rather than some greenery which is in the cities for like kind of airflow management, I don't know, but you know, there's just like nothing else. And if you go back to the 60s, how their imagination of future was, it's a lot greener. It's a lot about foliage, right? These cities had like actual parks on top of the buildings. They had like big forest, even forest going on big skyscrapers, and all the skyscrapers even incorporated some crazy amounts of different plants and greenery stuff, even glass houses on top of buildings. So like the role of foliage was a completely different one, like of plants and trees, than it would be in current visions. So this is something I really found very interesting, and I'm trying to bring that in as much as possible. I'm trying not to go too much all over the place, but I think it is important to bring a lot of scenery in. Like I shared a first screenshot with the lady and Sylph. We still have our little Koali Beach group, which we are a little bit still talking in. We kept that alive, so just to talk a few times every once in a while, and I just dropped them a screenshot very early on of this project and was like, you know, I'm not too sure what you think. And Sylph was like, really, he was like, oh, that's really cool, but man, you have to put in a lot of greenery again. And he's totally right. So it's this is all about greenery and nature, as well as these kind of modern buildings, which work a lot. Like, this is also again very interesting. They obviously, as I said last episode already, you always use the stuff you are used to know, basically, because that's what you live in, right? You're always thinking about the world you're living in right now. You can't really imagine what's in the future, and the world in the 60s was dominated by concrete. Like, concrete buildings were the new shit. Like, there were like just like the kind of the evolution of a Bauhaus style really was defining the 60s, 70s kind of modern buildings. totally tied in with a lot of color, right? Like you all know, if I say 60s, 70s style, you all have these kind of very ugly interior designs with like a lot of orange and brownish and yellowish tones, with some all weird green color schemes and whatsoever. And obviously they took this kind of style and used this for their projections for the future, which is so interesting, because it defines a future which will never be likely to happen, because it, you know, is a projection of the current time and not a development how it would look like in the future. But it's so cool to see that, because like it's funny how the current time obviously changes, and nowadays buildings look a lot different from what they looked a few years ago, but also like the visions of the future of today are looking a lot different from what they've looked like a few years ago. So that is something really interesting, and it's also fun to see which things actually happened from the visions of back in the 60s, what really is happening today. I mean, a lot of things happen in a different way, but the basic idea about those are still the same. So if you take, for example, mobile phones, obviously mobile phones haven't been imagined exactly the way they are right now, but people have imagined kind of pieces of technology you kind of speak to, and they deliver the speak to somebody else. This is the basic idea about the mobile phone, from no matter where you are. I mean, obviously people had telephones, but they imagined already having this kind of stuff on the go. But what they did is obviously they made them look like actual telephones, because they thought, okay, we'll put just a mobile telephone, literally. Which is funny though, because it does really give you, it's just the very basic model of thinking, right? That's how we as human works, which is, I think, very interesting to just talk about and think about, because it's always about what we can imagine right now. So there's not a single situation where we are able to think of how the world looks like in 2050. We just can't, because no matter what we do and no matter what we put or what we just try to think about, it will always be defined by what we currently know. So there is a lack of pretty much 30 years of knowledge what we can't tie into it, and this is so funny, and I found this really interesting to think about all these things. It's I'm just doubling all the words like last episode as well. But anyways, I'm just trying to dig into this topic as much as possible, also doing some research, and obviously I didn't have to do so much because I'm really a big fan of this retrofuturism either way, and I've also played a lot of games that kind of have this style, and I watched a lot of movies from back then, and you know, that's I had a general idea in mind, and in this certain area I really wanted to go a bit more freely. So it's maybe not that exact in the end, it's maybe not that perfect, but that's not what I'm going for. I really wanted to create that scene. As you can see, I'm preparing right now already the looks of a scene. So I'm really trying to make this a movie set. So you can see this is basically a facade, nothing else than a facade. Also trying to kind of hold this a bit more by having these structures over here. I may go and change the kind of images later on, but I didn't found really better ones online yet, because I haven't researched so much. So yeah, anyways, it's never mind. It's just what it is. Nothing special here. But I just wanted to have kind of images on it. I really do need another one. So if you guys have some time and you want to drop me some links down below to very cool textures of buildings, like I need a texture. I don't need pictures. I need a texture of a building which could actually look like this kind of retro futurism. I know there are a few places online where we do have some texture databases where you can look for some buildings, but yeah, I'd really much appreciate, even for those of you who are in my Discord, just drop this down below in the Planet Coaster subthread, and just you know, put them all in, because I really want to use these textures then in here. Also I have some more ideas, but anyways. Yeah, now I should stop talking about the building style, because I am building right now, for you guys at least, a coaster. And I need to talk about this coaster because when I built this coaster, it was middle of the night, and you have seen that I jumped from building this facade right into the coaster. I don't know what it exactly was. I have no clue, but all of a sudden I I had this idea of coaster. I had this layout in mind, which actually never happened to me before. That's so weird. Like I was really sitting here and had like the coaster in my mind. I exactly knew how to build that one. Obviously, it turned out differently than I thought at the first go. But I really thought I have to build this coaster, and I totally decided for this type of track only by the looks of it. I know Sylph has been built a pretty much similar one recently. It's not copycat at all. I just wanted to go for this coaster because I just love the looks of the track. That's it. This coaster is by no means inspired by a real one. It could be maybe a Mack ride. Could be, I don't know, maybe even Intermin. I have no idea. So like, don't get me wrong, I just had an idea of a layout. Of a coaster layout. That's it. Full stop. There is, like, I don't want to be awfully realistic in terms of what kind of coaster type this is. The layout though at the end, like the final version, and I'm gonna put a POV in the end of next episode, I guess. Maybe I forget, but I just wanted to build a coaster, and it's funny. I think that's the end of my transformation, I have to say. It's potentially the end of our coaster idea, because like when I started with our coaster, I started the Our Coaster series to force myself to build coasters, because I was crap at building coasters. Let me get it straight. I always tried to kind of fight back, or just kind of try to find reasons why my coasters were so bad, but let's face it, they were bad. My coasters were bad before I started to go a bit more into coaster building in general. So there was a lot of things that were wrong about those coasters I built in the past. And that's fine. I had no idea. So still I'm not good, but I'm a lot better than I was back then. But what never happened before was like that I got all of a sudden this kind of idea, and with theme ideas, like building buildings and building a different theme and building, I don't know, an area. This happens every single day. I get the idea, I note this down, I make a scribble, full stop. This happens all the time. With a coaster, that never ever happened to me until a few days ago. And I thought, okay, I have to give it a shot. I have to build that coaster right away. And I just, there's no big reason why I put this exactly where I put it. Now it does fit perfectly into it, I guess, because if you go and imagine how would a theme park, which is basically a studios, which is basically using a space that has been used completely different in the past, where would they actually put a coaster? Like, they would potentially put it there where the most space is, right? And I felt like this area over here with the kind of futuristic theme or facade would be a nice spot, because behind that one there was maybe a big hall, or maybe there was just a parking lot or a delivery area whatsoever, and this is where actually the coaster is on. And I'm going to actually make it exactly like this. I will be placing this one, I don't know if that works, but it kind of is an idea. I will be placing this coaster on top of a abandoned parking lot. Like, really, it should be like an overgrown parking lot with a lot of old parking slots, and like you can really see that there are already some problems with the track. Like, you have a bit of scratches and all these kind of broken asphalt things in the parking lot. And I'm trying to do this like kind of a mixture of kind of billboards and actual ground pattern or whatsoever. I don't know how this will turn out, but I think that would actually tie in perfectly into this area. So this could have been like the parking lot for this studio back then, but since it hasn't been used then again, and this has been made for like a world fair in the 60s, and then it hasn't been reused afterwards, it's kind of an abandoned one. And so the theme park kind of supervisor or whoever was in charge decided to build a kind of coaster about on top of this one. So that's the idea about this. And yeah, as you can see, I also put an inversion in the ride. I mean, I am not an expert about these kind of Mack coaster Intermin rides. The only thing I know is that they potentially don't have that many inversions usually, especially this kind of track, which wouldn't even allow inversions without turning off the coaster restrictions. So I'm not quite sure if that's even realistic, but after a few iterations of the layout, I wasn't that happy with all how the end of the coaster turned out. So I decided simply to just make it an inversion over there. So hopefully that turned out nicely. And you know what, I'm putting a POV at the end of this video. But for now, this should be it with this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed. And as always, make sure to leave a like if you like the episode. And do subscribe if you haven't already. And let me know in the comments below what you think of the layout and what you think in general of this area. And also what you would wish for the future of this area. But anyways, that's it for this episode, guys. See you in the next one and have a great day. Bye bye.
We should be hiding out wherever we may find love that's flowing.